Good to see everybody. Great to be back with you. Dr. Kim, one of the members of this wonderful group. So please, everybody, put yourself on mute. We're going to sing. Take a good stretch, and we're singing Guide My Feet while I run this race, because I don't want to run this race in vain. But also, since we're thinking about the journey of the Hajj, we'll also sing a little bit of peace, salam, and shalom. Guide my feet while I run this race. Guide my feet now while I run this race. Guide my feet while I run this race, 'cause I don't want to run this race in vain. Guide my heart, guide my heart while I run this race. Let me see you sway now. Guide my heart now. While I run this race. Guide my heart while I run this race. 'Cause I don't want to run this race in vain. Guide my thoughts, yes. Guide my thoughts while I run this race. Send me wisdom now. Guide my thoughts now while I run this race, and knowledge. Guide my thoughts while I run this race, 'cause I don't want to run this race in vain. Oh, give it a little bit of a beat, y'all. Guide my feet. Guide my feet while I run this race. Oh, guide my feet now while I run this race. Guide my feet while I run this race, 'cause I don't want to run this race in vain. All right, we're going to step it up just a little bit and say, peace, salam, shalom. 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 One more time, sing. Peace, salam, shalom. Peace, salam, shalom. Peace, salam, shalom. Peace, salam, shalom. Ooh, peace, salam, shalom. Peace, salam, shalom. Peace, salam, shalom. Peace, salam, shalom. Welcome to the church in Ocean Park, an amazing interfaith community We are so glad that you're here, and you may be wondering if you are welcome. Well, you are welcome if you're Muslim, Hindu, Buddhist, Christian, Wiccan, Jewish, atheist, some combination, or something else altogether. You're welcome if you are vaccinated or unvaccinated. We send a special invitation to those who are single, married, divorced, transgender, filthy rich, quite poor, living in poverty, living in elegance. Everybody is welcome here. If you are a crying newborn, or if you are a crying old head who's feeling some grief today, you are welcome here. You are welcome if you are just browsing, if you're looking around, if you just woke up or just got out of jail. We don't care if you are more religious than the Dalai Lama, or if you have not been to synagogue since your niece's bat mitzvah. We extend a special invitation to those who are over 60, or those who just turned 65, those who have not grown up yet, those who are teenagers, those who feel like they're growing up too fast, and especially to those who are our young and impressive leaders. You are invited if you are a soccer mom, tree hugger, latte sipper, vegetarian, junk food eater, in recovery, or still living with addictions. You are welcome. If you're having problems, if you're down in the dumps, if you are sick and tired of being sick and tired, you are welcome. Thank you so much for being here. And one of the ways that we gather ourselves is by singing 3 times a Thich Nhat Hanh chant that says, I have arrived. I am home in the here and in the now. So please take a good breath. One more stretch, and we will sing together. I have arrived. I am home in the here and in the now. I have arrived. I am home in the here and in the now. I have arrived. I am home in the here and in the now. Welcome to the church in Ocean Park.
Good morning. I'm Reverend Janet Gallery McKithen. I'm the minister of the church in Ocean Park, and I also welcome you. I'd like to take a moment to let you know that we recognize that people come here with all different things on their hearts and their minds, and it's sometimes hard to focus, and so that's why we do also do that chant. But we also can hold all of those things. We can hold anger, we can hold bitterness, we can hold joy, celebration. And yeah, you may come with some of those. You may come with grief, whatever you do. If you'd like to put it in the chat, what you're coming with, that would be fine with us. And we could look at how people are coming this morning and what they are holding. But I want you to know that we as a community don't expect you to come always in joy or always in sorrow or always in grief. We have all of that all together, and we hold it as a community. We begin with the land acknowledgement. We all realize that we are sitting or standing wherever we are on stolen land. The church in Santa Monica is on Pakish, Tongva, and Chumash lands. And we recognize that that way they were taken in a violent and very destructive way, destructive for people's lives then and now. And we recognize the people among us still are affected by what has happened and what it continues to happen, and especially when they are made invisible. So we pledge to become a culture of repair and to be educated and to acknowledge what we've done and what we continue to do. I also want to remind everyone that no one speaks for the church in Ocean Park on their own. Each person speaks from who they are, and because we're diverse, you might hear something that you disagree with, and that's by intention because we continually want to broaden our understanding of the world. So we're excited because this morning we get to do that again. We get to hear from somebody who's going to help us understand the world in a way that they do. And so we're lucky that Thandiwe Abdullah is here, and I'll be introducing her later. But we thank you for being here and welcome to the church in Ocean Park. And now our music director, Louise Dobbs, will lead us in a song.
Good morning, everybody. So great to see you. I woke up this morning with my mind stand on freedom. I woke up this morning with my mind stand on freedom. Well, I woke up this morning with my mind stand on freedom. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Well, there ain't no harm to keep your mind stayed on freedom. There ain't no harm to keep your mind stayed on freedom. Well, there ain't no harm to keep your mind stayed on freedom. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. We're gonna walk, I'm gonna talk, I'm gonna walk with a mind on freedom. Walk, I wanna walk, I wanna talk with my mind on freedom. Whoa, walk, talk. Well, I'm singing and praying with my mind stayed on freedom. Well, I'm singing and praying with my mind stayed on freedom. Well, I'm mind stayed on freedom. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Oh yeah, I hope you're singing at home, because singing is the best. Well, I woke up this morning with my mind stayed on freedom. Well, I woke up this morning with my mind stayed on freedom. Well, I woke up this morning with my mind stayed on freedom. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. One more time now. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Oh, yeah.
Thank you, Louise. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I have the pleasure to introducing our speaker. Thandiwe Abdullah is a 17-year-old organizer who's been organizing for about 25 years with Black Lives Matter Los Angeles. She's a co-founder of Black Lives Matter Youth Vanguard and mobilizations director at March for Our Lives. She helped to conceptualize and launch Black Lives Matter in Schools campaign adopted by the National Education Association. Her work is to create safe spaces for Black youth to organize around racism and anti-Blackness, particularly in school. Thandiwe was named one of Time Magazine's 25 most influential teens of 2018 for Black Lives Matter social justice activism. In 2018, Thandiwe stood in front of 750,000 people at the Women's March, LA, and spoke in support of Black lives worldwide with a special recognition of Muslim women and femmes in Palestine, who she says are the victims of a global war on terror. Thandiwe's widely read op-ed article in Bustle Digital publication called for intersectionality between the Never Again and the Black Lives Matter movements. Thandiwe says there's something to learn in both movements. I think that we should invite people in the Never Again movement to Black Lives Matter events. And I think we should show up for them, they wrote. Thandiwe is planning a career as a lawyer activist. In telling their story to Time magazine, expressed intention to change the world's perception of Black youth and to empower Black youth to claim their own space and demand to have their own needs met. I want to transform systems that we live under from the ones that oppress us to the ones that empower us. Beyond their activism, Thandiwe is a joyous teenager and an avid soccer player. I don't know if you still are. This was said a couple of years ago. Thandiwe is also a stage performer and was in the off-Broadway cast of Patrice Cullors' Power from the Mouths of the Occupied. Thandiwe is a practicing Muslim and attends the Islamic Center of Southern California. Thandiwe also received the Communitas Award from the church in Ocean Park in 2019. We already know Thandiwe, and we welcome her back home. Welcome, Thandiwe Abdullah.
Hey everybody, so good to be back. I love the church in Ocean Park. Me and my mom talk about you guys all the time. It's a bit of a drive, otherwise we would come way more. But it's just so great to be back. And yeah, I guess I'm here to talk to you all about Hajj. It is the last month of the Islamic calendar right now. And so a lot of people are returning from their Hajj pilgrimage. Hi, thank you for welcoming me. Even though Hajj has been very different in the past year, and I guess year and a half of COVID, people have been taking more precautions. Mecca is in Saudi Arabia, so they have been putting new protocols in place to try and keep everyone safe. But yes, so I don't know who all is familiar with the Hajj pilgrimage, but it is one of the 5 pillars of the Islamic faith. And so everyone who is able to, every Muslim in their lifetime who is able to, required, I guess, it's obligatory to make this pilgrimage if possible. And so it takes place during the last month of the Islamic calendar. And during this time, it's very much about community, right? We hear a lot in like the media with like anti-terror propaganda, right? Which it's really Islamophobia, right? A lot of the things that we hear about Muslims is just straight up propaganda, straight up like, trying to feed Americans this like really Western and biased view of what Islam is, when Islam, to me, like growing up, has always been just about community and love, support, right? Even down to like, it is obligatory for Muslims to give back to the community, to care for those around them. If someone's struggling, you care for them, right? And so this is all these themes come together during this Hajj pilgrimage. And I have never been, but these are just the things that we all hear and that we all hear about from family members and community members who have gone. And so, yes, during this time, everyone comes together. There are rituals when you go to Mecca and you walk around the Kaaba, I think 7 times. And all of the rituals that we have are really history-based. It's like, there's stories in the Bible. There's also stories in Islam about like how there was no water in the desert, and then that's how the Zamzam well showed up. When there's just a lot, right? And I don't think I'll have enough time to get through all these stories, but I really encourage you all to look it up. It's really interesting. But so yeah, when Muslims go to Mecca, I don't know if you've all seen the black box. That's what everyone knows it as, the black box. It's called the Kaaba. And this Kaaba is really important to Islamic faith. And so it's believed to be built by Ibrahim or Abraham with this really sacred black stone that was gifted to him by the angel Jibril or Gabriel. And so after the Kaaba was built, it became surrounded by these like idols, and this was like pre-Islamic, right? This is in pre-Islamic times. And so when Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, came to Mecca, he took all the idols away, blessed and cleansed the Kaaba, and dedicated it to Allah. And so it's this really just sacred space. You're supposed to kiss the stone, touch the stone. It's very healing. It's a very healing experience for folks, right? People always come back from Hajj and they're like, I completely differently. They're re-devoted to caring for others, to just being spiritual, and they're more connected, right? And so this Kaaba is like so important for so many folks all around the world. Islam is one of the fastest growing religions in the world. And so there's so many people who come and who are just like really connected to this time. It's a really important time. Yes. But on the lesser talked about side of Islam, right? No one really likes to talk about the spiritual aspect. There's a lot of disconnect. Sorry, I have stuff written down because I didn't want to go all over the place. A lot of Muslims don't like to talk about spirituality because I do believe it is because of Western propaganda and colonialism, right? We don't believe, we like to keep our Islam just down to these rituals, right? But it goes beyond that. It has a spiritual and like sacred component that many people view as like mysticism or something that is shirk or is like not allowed, right? Something that is haram. But in reality, Islam has always been very deeply spiritual, even down to architecture, right? The Kaaba is a cube, it means cube. And cubes are very, in Islamic architecture, it's very earth-centered, it's very strong and grounding, right? And so it makes sense that when people come back from Hajj, they feel very grounded in faith. They feel whole and like complete, right? Renewed and grounded. Early Islam talked a lot about perfection, divine perfection. When we talk about Islam and science and math, right, you see a lot of that. That was during the golden age. You see a lot of those themes. But the cube, right, the four corners of the cube even point to all the four directions of the earth. And so there's so many different things that we fail to recognize or take into account simply because we are scared to explore the spiritual side of what Islam means. But it's really beautiful. And inshallah, one day I'll be able to make the Hajj pilgrimage myself. It hasn't come yet. But yes, like right now is just a very beautiful time. Monday is Eid al-Adha. And that's one of the most important holidays in Islam. We really only have two. It's Eid al-Fitr and Eid al-Adha. And so that takes place right after Hajj is technically done. And it really honors Abraham's willingness to sacrifice his son. And so during this time, Muslims will slaughter a lamb or a goat in his honor and keep a third to themselves and then give away the rest, right? So you're supposed to give to family, friends, and most of all, you're supposed to care for those in need, poor folks, homeless folks. So this is really an important time just in life, right? And I'm so thankful that you all invited me. I'm sorry if this was all over the place, and please ask me if you have any clarifying questions, but this is just a very sacred time for this huge community of Muslim folks all around the world. And so as we all come together, we have this word called the Ummah, right? Which is this, it's talks about like the global community, right? As we're getting in touch with that theme, it's really beautiful. I'm so glad that you guys went to employ that theme here in Ocean Park. So yeah, I'm just glad to be here. And I apologize if some things were confusing, but yes.
Now called Why Shouldn't We by Mary Chapin Carpenter. And I put the words in the chat. We believe in things we cannot see. Why shouldn't we? Why shouldn't we? Hands that heal can set a chain man free. Why shouldn't we? Why shouldn't we? And we believe in peace within every heart. Why shouldn't we? Why shouldn't we? Burning brightly, brightly in the dark. Why shouldn't we? Why shouldn't we? So come on, darling, feel your spirits rise. Come on, children, open up your eyes. God is all around, Buddha's at the gate. Allah hears your prayers, it's not too late. And we believe in things that will give us hope. Why shouldn't we? Why shouldn't we? Let your voice be heard, lift up your vote. Why shouldn't we? Why shouldn't we? So come on, darling, feel your spirits rise. Come on, children, open up your eyes. God is all around, Buddha's at the gate. Allah hears your prayers, it's not too late. We're told we cannot change. Why shouldn't we? Why shouldn't we? We had heroes once and we will again. Why shouldn't we? Why shouldn't we? So come on, darling, feel your spirits rise. Come on, children, open up your eyes. God is all around, Buddha's at the gate. Allah hears your prayers, it's not too late. Come on, darling, feel your spirits rise. Come on, children, open up your eyes. God is all around, Buddha's at the gate. Allah hears your prayers, it's not too late. Allah hears your prayers, it's not too late. Well, it's time for community sharing. So I see some hands, and I will call on Craig Ali. Unmute and speak to us, Craig.
And before I begin, I want to say Eid Mubarak to my sister. Even though it's early, I know it's highly unlikely I'll be in her presence either Monday or Tuesday, so I'll take this opportunity to say this now. Eid Mubarak. Whenever I more or less look at Islam being presented, I'm often troubled by two falsehoods that relate to Islam. One is how it treats women, and two, how some say Islam is defined as saying that the black man is God and the white man is the devil. And I always hold that true because I believe that, early on. But Hajj Malik Shabazz, more commonly referred to as Malcolm X, played a strong role in disputing both of those. First and foremost, he, upon making Hajj, came back and had to reveal the idea that when he sat down to pray, he was praying essentially, on right and left sides of him, those who would be considered white. And he had to reveal also that those white folks didn't see themselves as white, they saw themselves as human beings. And as a result, it made a serious indictment on racism within this. The other thing about that is that if they indeed embraced Islam, then they could more or less embrace all of humanity, under a single God. That's, I think, is very, very significant. The other thing he talks about is, well, the other thing that needs to be addressed also is how it treats women. Again, Hajj Malik Shabazz, before he embraced Islam, he was an abuser of women. He put women through trauma, but afterwards he became a protector of women. And so when we look at, let's say, the Taliban and these various other groups, that want to more or less harm, we need to address and look at specifically Hajj Malik Shabazz or Malcolm X and see, specifically how he resolved that issue within that. And so again, I thank, the opportunity to speak on this and address this. And I, again, thank my sister for shedding the light on a major pillar of Islam, which is Hajj. Again, Eid Mubarak.
Thank you, Craig. Dr. Kim, please unmute and speak.
So thank you, and thank you, Craig. Thank you. And so, so I'd like to ask our speaker, because you mentioned the Zamzam well. Can you just tell us a little bit of Hagar's story, and if that connects to you as, I know she's her story is a part of the Hajj. So can you give us a little bit of that, please?
Yes. So I do need to brush up a little bit, but it is believed that, well, in Islam, I think it's Hajj, but she was left in the desert with her child, and it was like she ran back and forth from these two hills. I think it was Safa and Marwa, and she ran back and forth, I think 7 times, and she is like looking for water. And finally, when she comes back, the baby scratches the earth with his foot, and the Zamzam well springs up out of nowhere, right, in this desert. And so it's like one of the miracles in Islam. And in Islam, there's so many miracles, right? And it's one of the, it's something that's like a reoccurring thing, like miracles, but the Zamzam well is one of those miracles. And so during Hajj, that's one of the rituals. You have to go to the Zamzam well and drink some water. It's believed to have healing properties. It's believed to cure illnesses, like to bless you and purify you. And so a lot of people also bring bottles home for their families. Like I remember my dad's sister would like she had a huge thing of bottles and like gave us a bottle, and we weren't allowed to touch it. It was so sacred. Or like people put a little in some tea if someone's sick, or yeah, it's really beautiful. And it's in a lot of other, it's in, I think, the Christian belief as well. I don't know. It's in a lot of other different faiths, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, actually, yeah, it is in Christian belief. Now, can you say again the way it's pronounced in Islam? Because I would say Hagar, but you had a different way of saying it. So could you say that again, please? How you say her name?
I'm pretty sure it's Hajj, but I don't speak Arabic, so it's either Hajj or Hajra. But yeah.
So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you both. Next, I see Omar. Hi, Omar.
Hi, how are you? So I had a question for Thandiwe. First,
Oh, you're on mute.
okay, yes, thank you for telling me I'm on mute. I'm like having this whole conversation. Uh, thank you so much for being here. And assalamu alaikum. I had actually a question for you, but I wanted to actually like just make an observation. I think with regard to the Hajj, with um, now I'm like very self-conscious how I'm going to pronounce Hagar. How I'm going to
I
pronounce
don't
the
know
name.
either.
Yeah, because I don't speak Arabic either. But basically, I thought it's pretty remarkable that all the rituals, well, that ritual of Hajj, going back and forth between Safa and Marwa, is a like a tribute to what a mother went through for
Right.
for her child, because she was desperate for water, and she was alone in this desert. Her child was crying, and she went back and forth between these two hills or little small mountains to get a better view, to try to find water. And she was praying, each way that she went. And I thought that was really sort of important to know, the importance also that Islam gave her. And I think a lot of people, even Muslims, forget how important and influential women were in
Right.
Islam. For example, how the Prophet's wife, Aisha, was a scholar and teacher of Islam. She's the one who um, helped, tell hadiths, which were like teachings and sayings of the Prophet. And so she was very foundational to Islam too. And the Prophet's first wife, Khadija, who passed away, like a supporter of Islam. So I just think that as far as the stereotypes go, you're doing an awesome job, breaking the stereotypes, because you're out there, like being like everyone, being involved in social causes, but yet also not forgetting, where you came from too. So I think that's awesome. And then my question is that, being a, like a young Black Muslim woman, like there's a lot, I think, that as far as um, like racism or prejudice that you're exposed to. And so I wanted to ask you what your experience is with that, and like if it was like some particularly difficult situation, just growing up, like with regard to either gender, religion, race, that, or maybe a combination of all three, that you had to overcome, how you overcame, and just maybe if you wouldn't mind touching up on a story
Yeah,
from
of
your.
course. Yeah. So I was always, I think, very insecure in my faith, like growing up. I come from like an interfaith background. My mom's side is like Jewish and Christian, and my dad's side is Muslim. And so I feel like that's something that's not really touched upon enough in the Muslim community, is like there are so many Muslims who like don't only come from a Muslim background, and it has to, a lot of people feel like you have to make a choice, like, oh, I have a lot of friends who are like Jewish Muslims, and people are like, they conflict, and I'm like, no, they don't. Like, you can be all of these things at once. But I feel like culturally, right, because this is not an Islamic view, as an Islamic way of thinking, but it's culturally in a lot of these masjids, like there's a choice to be made. um
Oh, I'm afraid you're frozen. Is it just me?
No, she froze on my end too.
Yeah.
maybe she can reconnect.
Maybe,
I hope.
Yeah.
maybe,
Please connect.
yeah.
Good to see you, Omar.
Thank you. I'm in the kitchen making breakfast. Sorry if that's distracting to people.
We can relate with that. So should we go on? I see
Yeah.
Rachel Rose. We hope Thandiwe comes back, but Rachel Rose, go ahead.
Well, actually, I had a question for her. So,
Well, maybe while we're waiting for her, I just want to comment on what she just started talking about, was the multiple belongings. And that's exactly that's one of the reasons why the church in Ocean Park exists, is because not only do people from different faith traditions come together, but people in themselves are different faith traditions. There are many people who come from and carry with them and are belonging to different faith traditions. And if you attend a church and you're Christian, but you're also Muslim, or you're also Jewish, then you're denying a part of yourself. And there are many Christian churches also that want you to deny, like if you're have some kind of Yoruba religion background, like, and so people are keeping some part of them secret a lot of times in order to attend a Christian church, and sometimes in other faith traditions as well. So the reason I think that the church in Ocean Park is so important is because we celebrate that, and that we understand that there's multiplicity of belongings in individuals as well as in families. So it's not, many people are experience exactly what Thandiwe was talking about, and come from various backgrounds, or choose one and came from another, or they're an immigrant and they came over here, and then they are part of two cultures, but they have to deny one in order to express their faith or something. So I think that the church in Ocean Park is a place where we need to ensure that people understand that. Here comes Thandiwe again. Anyway, speaks to just what she was talking about. But she's connecting now, so maybe she'll finish. Hey, Thandiwe.
Hi, my computer just randomly crashed, so that was embarrassing. Sorry.
That's okay, it happens.
Should I pick
No
up where I
problem.
was? Or
Yes, please.
Yeah, pick up where
You disconnected when you said at the mosque, when you're at the mosque.
Yes. And so so that's like number one. My biggest insecurity was just like felt like I didn't know enough. I never went to like a Dugzi or a Islamic school or anything like that. And so, all I knew was Surah Fatiha, the really short one, and like I barely knew any surahs, and I was like, dang, but like what's even the point in trying, because everyone knows so much more than me. And then on top of that, it was like being one of the only Black people in these masjids was just like really hard. And like unfortunately, a lot of the times the mosques will like segregate, and so we do have like a lot of mosques that are just Arab people, or like just Southeast Asian people, and it's frustrating because sometimes when you show up in these spaces, you're like the odd one out, and no one is really treating you like the family that you should be. And so that's one of the things. I'm sorry.
Oh no, I said that sucks. I'm sorry that you went through that.
It's fine. I mean, it's the truth for a lot of like Black Muslims, and I'm happy that we're talking about it now. But like one of the things that I appreciate about the Islamic Center was that it really did. It was really diverse, and so when I showed up, I didn't feel like an odd person out. But like just in general, right? I think we do have to do better in terms of making our communities more welcoming for Black folks. Like when we talk about security, right? The Islamic Center had like 2 bomb threats. And one time there was actually a bomb in there, and they had to like take it out. But like when we talk about security, what does putting police in a mosque mean in terms of who is showing up, right? Black folks do not feel safe. Like there's a lot of Black people who stopped coming to a lot of these masjids, right? Because they felt over policed. It didn't feel like a safe space for them. When we have LAPD like talking and like you know, at our mosque, like when they're running for re-election. Why, right? So like, I guess we do have to make a choice, like how to actually create these spaces, and it's like an active decision. Like you have to actively make sure that your spaces are inclusive for Black folks, and like reverts and all of these groups who are like historically kind of left out. Yeah, I hope that answers your question. I don't really remember the specifics.
Yeah, yeah. I was just asking specifically if there was like any instant where, you know, again, because of your sort of multiple identities, how you know, like you felt some direct prejudice, how you overcame it, like you know, even for example, you know, like you know, in the Black Lives Matters movement, you know, you're a Muslim woman, and
Mhm.
you know that, like, I mean, you're a minority of a minority of a minority. You're female, you're Black, and you're Muslim, and
Yeah.
so to have a space must be tough, right? And you know, like the fact that you're so outspoken in front of, you know, so many people. So I was just wondering if there was like, you know, any particular challenge, even with regard to that, with what, like, you know, getting in front of the media, getting in front of the press, you know, saying what you need to say. Like you know, because for example, I mean, you know, like you touched upon you know, Palestine Israel issues too. I mean, that's a tough issue
That had
to
serious
talk about.
consequences for me. That was,
I figured that. So I mean, is it, are you comfortable sharing that, like what the consequences were or what happened with that?
yeah, sure. I hope I'm not taking up too much time. Is it okay?
Yeah, yes. Give us your answer, and we do have a couple more people with their hands up. So yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I'll be really brief. So that year I was 14 years old. I spoke at the Women's March. I think it was like the biggest women's march. And it was a year when there was a lot of like speakers present who they invited, who donated like hundreds of thousands of dollars to the IDF, which is the Israeli Defense Force. And the IDF is like this militarized force that like kind of carries out like this ethnic cleansing of Palestinians. And the movement for Black Lives is very like pro-Palestine and like Palestinian liberation. And so a lot of our people were telling us to pull out. And instead we were like, no, it would make a bigger statement if we had like one of our Muslim folks like say something. Not really realizing, I don't think any of us realized at the time it might like put a target on me, but I was 14. And I spoke at this women's march, and I just read the national plaque like that's on the Movement for Black Lives website. And I was like, yeah, BLM stands with the women and femmes in Palestine. We support you in your struggle, and we stand in solidarity with you and for your liberation, right? And then the year after that, when they were looking for like another representative from Black Lives Matter, like people from the Women's March called me and told me that I was anti-Semitic and that I said, in quote, death to Jews. And I just started breaking down crying, and I was just like, what is going on? Because it, first of all, as someone with Jewish ancestry, it was really frustrating, like knowing that my own family might see these like really like these lies in the media, right? And I was like, anyone can look up the video. I know that I didn't say it, but it was this irrational fear that like a lot of Black Muslim women, they do get targeted, or just Black women in general, right? Like Angela Davis gets called anti-Semitic all the time for talking about Palestinian liberation. And so I think it was the first time I really had that happen to me. I got rejected from colleges that I applied to because of it. And we're finally in the healing process with that organization now. They're like writing a letter of apology, but it was this huge thing. And I'm sorry for taking up too much time, but yeah, this is like one of the biggest instances.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Omar. That was great. Thank you. It's just fascinating and interesting and very, very juicy topic. Rachel Rose, go ahead and unmute.
Good morning, Thandiwe. I
Morning.
Good morning. I am transgender. I'm from the LGBTQ community,
Mhm.
and one of the things that perplexes me the most is religions of peace um, taking anti-LGBTQ stances.
Mm.
And I just was wondering, from your perspective and your experience within the Islamic community, if you're seeing any kind of a shift towards acceptance, not just acceptance as opposed to the word escapes me, but anyway, and whether or not maybe the Muslim youth might be having an impact on making tolerant was the word, I think, acceptance over tolerance, and whether the Islamic youth might be having an impact on changing some hearts and minds as to the acceptance of LGBTQ folks.
Yes, that's such an important conversation. Thank you so much for that. I think we're starting to have that conversation, right? And it is being led by Muslim youth. We are having these very difficult conversations about the difference between Islam versus colonial ideas that were kind of enforced on certain cultures, right? Especially in the Arab community. Because unfortunately, we do have a bit of an Arab supremacy problem in the Muslim community. But yes, so the conversation about transphobia and homophobia is definitely being led by Muslim youth. We're talking about the biggest conversation that I've seen is what does being non-binary mean and how is it almost sacred, right? I've seen that conversation being had all throughout social media. And I think there was even a conversation in my masjid. But Islam doesn't call for homophobia, and it's actually a sin, I guess, to be violent or to express violent views about someone else's identity. And so having that conversation when folks bring up, homophobia, I mean, being queer or being trans is sinful, right? A lot of the older generation or people from certain cultures and communities will say that. It's okay, but also being homophobic and transphobic and being violent in those beliefs is extremely sinful, maybe even more than what you believe to be a sin in being queer or trans, right? And so there's so many queer Muslim folks, there's so many trans Muslim folks who are finally being able to find community, alhamdulillah, being able to feel accepted and strong in their beliefs. And so I think in the past, it has been very you either get to be Muslim or you get to be queer or trans. And now people are finally being able to find that community, but there is still a problem, and there is still that conversation that definitely needs to be had. It's not going to happen overnight because it is ingrained in a lot of different cultures, but it is not based in Islam, and it is not Islamic to be homophobic or transphobic. And so hopefully we can keep having that conversation. But for a lot of people, there is dangerous consequences for having that or trying to have that conversation, but it is happening, and we are getting somewhere. So thank you so much.
Thank you, and that sounds hopeful, and I lend my spiritual energy to all of those efforts.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, we have time for one more speaker, and it's Hurley Jim.
Thank you. Thanks, Louise, and thank you, Thandiwe. Welcome. Glad you're here. I want to just ask if I know you're a leader in the Peace Without Police movement, and I want to just give you a chance to say a little something about that, maybe how your involvement in that is informed by your faith or is an expression of your faith.
Yeah, thank you so much. So the Peace Without Police campaign is actually March for Our Lives campaign. They've recently adopted a police abolitionist stance, which I appreciate and support. It was led by Black and Brown organizers. And so this campaign is specifically focusing on removing police from school campuses. It's definitely informed by my faith. The way that Muslims are surveilled by the state, right, at such crazy rates. The way that so many Muslims, especially Black Muslims, are targeted by state violence, right? And also just like, I've touched on this a little bit before, but in the mosque, right, like we have to make this difficult decision between how do we protect our community in a way that is not through police and through these systems that target and enact violence towards Black folks. And so it's been really hard, but having this campaign, I think, allows for that conversation to not only be had in the context of like schools and how to keep children safe, but we're also having it like in the mosques, right? We have whole entire talks now about, what does safety mean for Muslims, right? And how can we have safety in a way that doesn't scare or harm our Black and Brown Muslim folks? And so, I think it's super important for a multitude of reasons, but we're beginning to like touch upon abolition and like all of these different crazy themes that like people didn't even want to talk about before. But I'm glad that March for Our Lives is leading that, because it's a whole new base that people were so shocked when they rolled out that campaign. But yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you both so much. And I'm so happy to say that Kim has a song for us now.
Yes. So thank you. What amazing presentation and conversations. So we are living neath a great big dipper. We are washed by the very same rain. We are swimming in a stream together, some in power and some in pain. We can worship this ground we walk on, cherishing the beings that we live beside. Loving spirits will live forever. We're all swimming to the other side. I am alone and I am searching, hungering for answers in my time. I am balanced at the brink of wisdom. I'm impatient to receive a sign. I move forward with my senses open. Imperfection may be my crime. In humanity, I will listen. We're all swimming to the other side. Here comes the chorus. We are living neath the great big dipper. We are washed by the very same rain. We are swimming in the stream together, some in power and some in pain. We can worship this ground we walk on, cherishing the beings that we live beside. Loving spirits will live forever. We're all swimming to the other side. On this journey through thoughts and feelings, finding intuition, my head, my heart, I am gathering the tools together. I'm preparing and I'm doing my part. All of those who have come before me band together and be my guide. Loving lessons that I will follow. We're all swimming to the other side. Here comes the chorus. We're all living neath the great big dipper. We are washed by the very same rain. We are swimming in the stream together, some in power and some in pain. We can worship this ground we walk on, cherishing the beings that we live beside. Loving spirits will live forever. We're all swimming to the other side. Loving spirits will live forever. We're all swimming to the other side. And we're so thankful to be together. We're all swimming to the other side. Do that again. We're so thankful to be together. We're all swimming to the other side.
Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday, dear Gail. Happy birthday, dear Ivy. Happy birthday to you.
Woohoo! Yes.